been a great relationship, all one way.
That was funny, by the way, him talking about, I love Chicago. I got no beef with them, but they don't like me. I think, you saying you own them, you beating them every time you face them has a little bit to do with it. But I love that Aaron Rodgers had fun with that young fan there. Nice moment there. But here, there's a team making a road trip to Chicago. So maybe I'll be back here. So you think, well, let's go through the schedule. Who do the Bears play on the road? And sure enough, week 12, 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS, Steelers at Bears. And it leads folks to believe, okay, here's now another big hint about Aaron Rodgers playing next season in the NFL and playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I know we've had some folks, Mike Silver came on, shout out to him last week from The Athletic, and he said, look, until it's done, it's not done. And until pen is put to paper, all options are still open for Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers having that much fun in that way, talking about a team making a road trip and everyone being on the point to the Steelers, tells me at some point he probably will sign with the Steelers unless something unforeseen happens. But I just give a kind of a warning to the Steelers and their Steelers fans about what you're getting and some of the concerns I see about this whole process. Because like I said, Aaron Rodgers has mentioned that the reason why he can't sign and can't commit to football right now is because of something he's dealing with personally. And again, we all deal with personal issues, and we all understand that sometimes it is difficult to go through even your job when you're dealing with things like that. But at the same time, now we're starting to see a much more public-facing Aaron Rodgers. An Aaron Rodgers who has time to sit for 3 hours of I assume was partially edited interview. Maybe it was even more time with Joe Rogan. We're seeing him making this appearance. I believe he was also at the Kentucky Derby, if I'm not mistaken, as well. The Aaron Rodgers who says that, no, there's no way I can spend any time on football, any time. I can't even commit to the fact that I'll play football, is now finding time to say and do other things.
EJ, maybe I'm in a minority here.
Sure.
But this whole will he, won't he, this just adds to the negative lore behind Aaron Rodgers, because I'm of the belief that the Steelers know he's on the way. Mm-hmm. There's a handshake agreement that hasn't been reported. It's the way the Steelers have operated this offseason. They've operated as if they have a quarterback in place.
Yep.
They didn't go out of their way to draft a person who could potentially start this year. They know Aaron Rodgers is on the way, playing coy, not announcing. To me, this is just the latest chapter of Aaron Rodgers having a propensity to waste the public's time.
Absolutely. He likes this attention. It's ironic that he says he doesn't, but then he continues to do things that suggest that he does.
A diva quarterback. How about that?
I know. I mean, he talked, he says, people make up narratives about me, but then he's the one that then decides that, even though I said I'm too busy to do anything, I'm going to do a 3-hour Joe Rogan interview. And he could do whatever he wants. I mean, that's the thing. Is that I think the folks who maybe defend Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Rodgers himself have this impression that us saying anything about what he is saying or what he thinks and things like that, and that we don't like him or we are against him purely because of what he thinks and what he says. That's not really the case. We're just reading the tea leaves of things that he says and the contradictions that he consistently makes. They called him an enigma in his infamous Enigma documentary they made on Netflix. It's a perfect word for him because he is an enigma. I don't understand a person who says that they're dealing with something too personal that doesn't allow them. But again, we're not even saying show up to work. Just say that you sign a contract and say you're going to be there so that the storyline can move on and the team can move on and everyone can move on with their lives. And him refusing, and he's pointing to, again, a personal issue that he's dealing with. That's fine and all, but there is an optics game too. You cannot, you do not live in a vacuum, Aaron Rodgers. You can't sit here and say, my life is too personal. Everyone leave me alone and get away from me and let me just live my life. But then now it feels like I'm seeing you in clips in podcasts and now doing public events. Now it feels like every week. So I'm not in all trying to cast an aspersion that somehow like he's not actually dealing with something personal. I know that he is. I'm not a monster. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying though is folks deal with things that are personal and deal with things that are difficult and still find a way to at least say, I'm going to be there, or say, hey, I'm going to do this, or say, like, I do think that he risks a lot with his teammates in the fact that he has done nothing for the Steelers.
Right.
He's not a guy he's a great Green Bay Packer and he's a great NFL quarterback, but he means nothing to the Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He's not from Pittsburgh. He's not played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He beat them in a Super Bowl. So if anything, there's maybe more kind of animosity than anything else. But he doesn't mean anything to them. I think he's kind of creating a great risk by suggesting that my problems should allow me to not have to do the things that everyone else has to do, regardless of their problems and whatever they're dealing with. Because Aaron Rodgers is not the only guy on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster that's dealing with something personal, but still find a way to sign a contract or still find a way to take 3 hours out of your day just to do a mini camp practice for a week or two.
It's the digital era. You don't have to use a fax machine to sign a contract. Everything is digital.
No.
And it's you can't keep acting as if you're not one of the most famous athletes in this country. Things you do resonate. They matter. They create distractions. And you know how much the NFL loves distractions. This whole situation is one massive distraction, even if we know the scenario is contrived. To me, part of him being an enigma is contrived because you create these scenarios that cause messes and creates questions for other people who have to constantly answer it. Just like his time with the Jets, he did things that forced his coach to have to answer questions. Yep. His interim head coach to have to answer questions. His potential new coach has to answer questions about Aaron Rodgers. Had he just signed the contract maybe 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Remember when he was wasting the Giants' time?
Yeah.
All these meetings. Had he signed the contract, there would be no segment right now. It would just be, Aaron Rodgers did this thing and he had a little cute comment about the Bears. But it's you keep creating noise, but it does not have to be noise. And now mini camps are happening. You're not there. You're not building a rapport. But then they're signing one of his favorite receivers from Green Bay is already with the Steelers. So there's little crumbs along the way that let us know, just sign the contract, Aaron. Because now, if this is the precedent, that means now when he goes and he's on Pat McAfee again, and Pat McAfee somehow finds out that he's a Steeler before everyone else, that's going to be more questions for the head coach to answer. I just feel like he's in a situation where it's just my guy, you're a super vet. You're an all-time great. You're one of the faces of this league still.
Yep.
Act like it for once.
I mean, but he doesn't. He wants to have his cake and eat it too, right? That's his problem. Is he wants to have the spotlight, have the attention, have the things, but still
EJ
be able to do what he wants. And then to a certain degree, I try to be, I always say any show I host, one of the unofficial rules is that EJ just wanted things to be fair. Because my mom always said, at least the Stewart just wanted things to be fair. And I actually very much agree with that sentiment. So I try to be fair in the sense that, if I was a 4-time MVP and, was a superstar quarterback, I would have maybe a sense of, I don't even want to say hubris, but a sense of an earned, feeling like there's an earned right to say, hey, I should be able to kind of work on my own time, play on my own time. I get that to a certain degree. But I think it would be different. This is a player that's had any modicum of success in the last 3 years, which he just has not.
That too.
He's not. And I keep telling people, I keep reminding them, because when he was signing with the Jets, I was very much for it. But the one concern I had was I felt like his last season with the Packers was extremely mid. And by almost every metric it was. And don't give me counting stats about this many yards and how that compares to Jet quarterbacks or things like that. Comparing Aaron Rodgers to himself and the status that he has rightfully earned, it was an extremely mid-season. His QBR was only a few points higher than Zach Wilson's his last year with the Green Bay Packers. So he's coming off a mid-year with the Packers. Then he suffers that terrible injury. Then he comes into this year with the Jets, and he suffers another mid-season. So we're talking about 2 mid-seasons in a row and then an injury in between. And now you have Aaron Rodgers, who I think is looking at this and saying, well, you know what, I'm a 4-time MVP, so I can work on my own time and say whatever I want. And I could make a little jokes with, fans at an event. And nobody really can challenge me because I've earned a lot. But again, what have you done for me lately? It has been not much. And I think he really creates a real risk with his teammates because the NFL, guys can say the right things, whatever, but they're watching.
Yeah.
Cam Hayward wasn't talking out of turn when he was like, I'm not recruiting this guy. If you want to be a Steeler, be a Steeler. If not, whatever.
That's it. It's like you said, he wants to have his cake and eat it too, but EJ, that cake is stale. Nobody wants it.
Yeah, it's like week-old carrot cake, man. It's dry. It tastes like a brick. You throw it against a wall. It's a crack in the wall. It's nasty.
The mice don't even want it now.
The mice don't want it. The ants don't want it. It's lame. It's whack. My dog Lita wouldn't eat it, and she'll eat anything. So I think that's the reality with Aaron Rodgers that I think He can continue to play these games, but at the end of the day, he's eventually going to have to play football. He's eventually going to have to look his teammates in the eye. He's eventually going to have to show that he is worth all of this. And I just haven't seen anything from him in the last 3 years to suggest that he is, which is why I said this on last week's show in Maggie and Pearl. If I say it here again, I think the Steelers look extremely sad because at this point, Aaron Rodgers is who he is. And I think I've levied enough criticism on him in this first segment. But at a certain point, you're also the Pittsburgh Steelers. And just like any relationship that is happening, you have agency. You can decide at a certain point, you know what, this is no longer worth it. I'm going to walk away. Like, we understand the attraction. You don't got much of a quarterback. This guy is a multiple-time MVP. He's a Super Bowl champion, and you're desperate. We understand that. But it's just like, any kind of relationship. It could be a romantic relationship. If you're talking to a guy and you're a girl, you're talking to a guy, and you're like, oh, you know what? I haven't been out there in a little while, but the guy, he's a little older, but he's kind of cute, and he's done a lot in his life. But then you start seeing signs. It's like, hey, he doesn't text you in 3 weeks. You asked to go to the movies. He's late. He doesn't pay for the dinner. You start seeing signs, and at a certain point, you keep saying, well, this guy. At a certain point, you got to look at yourself and say, hey, maybe I'm not really doing what I need to do in terms of like understanding my value and my worth. I don't think the Steelers really are. The Steelers are embarrassing to me. Like this is, I think this guy is like making you guys look like fools. He's saying that he's so busy that he can't even, he showed up once to your facility in basically incognito. But besides that, he doesn't want anything to do with showing up to the facility, doesn't want anything to do with signing a contract, doesn't want anything to do with actually being associated with being with your organization. And yet you're still lusting over this guy. I think it's a terrible look. This is a team that has won how many Super Bowls? 6 Super Bowls? This is one of the absolute first-class organizations, and to watch them get dragged down by a guy who is extremely comfortable in living in the circus, it's just an odd look. It's an odd look. It's an odd feel. It doesn't feel right. And again, as a Jet fan who did, want Aaron Rodgers and tried to support him as much as I could, I'm trying to give you the warning signs that if it doesn't feel right, it's probably because it isn't. 888-710-4ISN. Again, you listen to Maggie and Perloff. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers making these comments? Again, I did think it was a nice moment, a cute moment with the kid. I thought it was funny. I liked it, just in general. And if life was in a vacuum, Aaron Rodgers would be a person that I think a lot of people could support. But unfortunately, there's context to everything. And I do think it's tough for Steeler fans. I think it's tough for NFL fans to understand the context of Aaron Rodgers saying that he is dealing with something so personal that he can't even tell the Steelers or tell the public that he plans to sign with them or plans to play with them. But then now we're seeing him. It feels like every other day he's saying something or doing something and being coy or not saying anything at all. And if you're the Steelers, at what point do you say enough is enough? Like, we're the Steelers. Yeah, we may not be that good, but we have some damn dignity, and we're not going to let this guy just continue to make us look like fools. 888-710-4ISN. I want to hear from you. Let's get to Paul, who's in North Carolina. Wants to talk Aaron Rodgers. Paul, you're on with EJ.
Hey, thanks so much for taking my call. I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Such an interesting show, such an interesting topic. And I've worked in business management for many years, and I've dealt with all kinds of personal and human resource issues, and I've got so many thoughts to say. I originally grew up in Buffalo, New York. I've been in Charlotte for 32 years now, but growing up in Buffalo, I was always envious of the Steelers because they were such a class, successful franchise.
Yep.
So consistent every year. And I think, like you just mentioned a couple minutes ago, I think this is making them look really, really bad.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather just stop all this right now and have a really bad losing season than keep dealing with Aaron Rodgers. I used to like Aaron Rodgers many years ago. When he was great, I thought he was a class guy.
Yeah.
Somehow over the line, I think he's gotten kind of weird. And this stuff is weird.
That's one thing to say. Yeah.
If you want to be a quarterback in the NFL, be a quarterback in the NFL. Join your team, join your players, start taking reps, get with the coaches, learn your stuff. I played football in high school. I wasn't very good, but I played. I know what it takes to kind of be successful, sort of. And what he's doing is nonsensical.
Well, Paul, the problem is the problem, Paul, is those values you're talking about. He doesn't think are important anymore. He thinks that he thinks that you can take shortcuts. He thinks that there's an easy way. There's an easy way out. Because to me, that's what he's telling me. Because when you're telling me that the message I send to my teammates about not being in camp doesn't matter. The message I send to the fan base or send to my organization that I'm not willing to sign with them until I say so doesn't matter. He's saying these things don't matter because he thinks that his body of work and his level of play currently can make up for that. And maybe at that time that was true, but there's no evidence of that right now. And if he doesn't come back and be the MVP guy that he was 3-4 years ago, I think he's going to be eating a lot of crow, just like he did with the Jets.
Exactly. And the thing, his body and skills aren't there anymore. Maybe he's got the knowledge, maybe he's got the talent, maybe he can teach, and maybe as you get older, you learn to contribute in other ways. And part of that is being mature, and a part of that is being a leader. And he's not recognizing any of that at all. And like you just said, he's wanting to bank on his past, but you can't bank on your past. When you're in the business world, when you're in the sports world, you've got to perform today. And he's not proving anything that he can perform today anymore. Well,
Paul, you're making a phenomenal points, Paul, and thank you so much for the phone call. Like I think that with Rodgers, the problem is he wants to be a part-time quarterback. He wants to be a part-time NFL player. And I know that sounds like a sweeping allegation, I guess, but when you consider this is someone who seriously considered being a vice presidential candidate during last year's presidential election while he was still quarterback for the New York Jets, when you consider this as someone who talked about being a host on Jeopardy and still wanting to play football, we now have that Jeopardy executive producer saying essentially that he was trying to tell them how he could do both, and the Jeopardy producer was like, that's just impossible. It can't happen. And, I know Maggie Gray, who hosts the show, always does a phenomenal job, feels differently, but he did decide that, it didn't matter that the NFL, minicamp, schedule was different than the year before, and that he was supposed to be at minicamp. He thought that being in Egypt was more important because it just was on his schedule. Remember, this is a guy who's made hundreds of millions of dollars of his career. You would think that, something comes up in the schedule, okay, I can schedule that trip for a week later or a month later. Like this is not me, having to cancel like a trip to Cancun at the last minute. I don't have the bank account to do that. Like that would ruin everything about my whole plans. Aaron Rodgers is very different. He walks a different life. And he told us with a straight face that this is something he could not move at all, even though his job told him he had to be in a certain place. He doesn't think that any of these things are important. And again, if he was a better player, maybe I'd be willing to give him a lot more rope, but that's just not the guy we've seen. 888-710-4ISN. Again, we've been talking a lot about the Eastern Conference Finals as well. Mike from South Carolina wants to get in on that. Mike, what's up? You're on with EJ.
How you doing, EJ? First
up,
time listening to you. Good.
Thank you, man.
I'm originally from Long Island, and telling the call screen, I played some college baseball. I was at the last game of the '69 series with the Mets. I was 15, and my green and white Jets, Joe Willie and company, trained at Hofstra.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers, I got to say, Aaron Rodgers, you hit on it well, and the previous caller too. Mm-hmm. See, my perspective, he's all caught up in his ego. His best years are in his rearview mirror. And, what else? The magical year is '69. Yep. Right? The Knicks, the Jets, and the Mets. And I don't think any other city in my lifetime, I'm 71 now, mm-hmm. And I don't think they'll ever do that again. But let's go Knicks, and, the mojo's out there. And like I used to tell friends for years, EJ, the ball takes funny bounces, no matter what sport. All right.
Yep.
I'll let you go. Yeah. I always get to my point. You got a lot of callers waiting, I'm sure.
I appreciate you, Mike. Thanks so much for the phone call. Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing about that Knicks series, too, in terms of why I was a little surprised so many were ready to just write the Knicks off completely. Not only in just game 3 in the game, but just even before, it was not like the Knicks were so thoroughly outplayed in the first 2 games. Game 1, they pummeled the Pacers for 46 minutes. They controlled the pace. They controlled the way they wanted to play. They got anything they wanted offensively. They thought they earned a victory, which is why they played with the level of hubris and arrogance that they did late in the game that allowed them to collapse that one away. In game 2, a game that they did not play all that great, they were still very much in the game, and they had a possession down 3 with less than 15 seconds left and an opportunity to send that game in overtime. So it was not like the Pacers had completely run away from the Knicks at all. So you got a bad bounce of the ball, like Mike is mentioning, when it comes to the Halliburton 3, a shot that hits the back iron that then goes in, that forces overtime. 90% of the time, that ball hits the back iron, it goes over the backboard or safely lands in someone's arms, and the game is over. So this is just going to be that kind of series, folks.
EJ, you're giving a very Nick perspective. We have to also say that, granted, they did win game 3.
Yep.
They were down 20. And a lot of what took place in that game 3 comeback victory, credit to the Knicks, strong performance by Cat in the fourth quarter. It took a lot of bad basketball from the Indiana Pacers as well. That might have been their worst fourth quarter of this series thus far. The games have been close, but when it has mattered the most in games 1 and 2, the Pacers have provided the best versions of themselves. To me, credit to the Knicks, strong defense as well, but some of the offensive decision-making by the Pacers was questionable. Halliburton had matchups he could win, and he chose to drive to the paint and then circle back out and reset the offense instead of attacking the basket. It took a terrible Pacers performance for the Knicks to win. And as much as the Knicks, you could say it's close and the numbers indicate that it's close, you can't bank on the Pacers being that bad again 3 more times to make this comeback.
That's fair, but you also can't bank on the Knicks being as bad as they were in the first half consistently. And the only reason why I'll push back a little bit is because, and the Pacers didn't play well. That's obvious. You only scored 42 points, I think, in the second half. That's horrendous. But it wasn't like the Knicks didn't make any adjustments. The Knicks decided to go to a much deeper rotation, a deeper bench. Landry Shamet played more. DeLon Wright entered the rotation. And what that meant was you were bringing on 2 defenders. Also
true, but they were down 20 with that deeper rotation. And it still came down to your keynote players to bring you back.
Well, that was a lot of foul trouble. Deuce McBride was hurt. Well, was in foul trouble. Cat was in foul trouble. So it wasn't like I would push back on that being the reason why they were down. Those guys were playing well. No, the problem was they weren't getting shots from their best players. Cat was terrible. Right. Cat was terrible in the first half. So those guys weren't the reason why the Knicks were down.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the talking points would be, Tibbs extended the rotation. More guys got minutes. But in the midst of it, those guys getting minutes truly didn't impact the decision in that game. It came down to your star player. So
that's why I disagree, and where I think you're wrong here.
20-point fourth quarter? You don't think Cat just showing up finally dictated that?
That's a big reason. But here's the reason why I think you're wrong, what you're missing. The Knicks defended the Pacers as well as they've had the entire series in that fourth quarter. You know a big reason why. The minutes were a lot more down on the starters.
So you're saying energy allowed them to ratchet up the defensive intensity?
Yes.
Okay.
You're talking about a team. You look at the minutes Landry Shamet played, DeLon Wright. Deuce McBride played, he didn't play many minutes in the first half. He played all 15 of his minutes in the second half. So when OG and Mikal Bridges, those guys come back in the game, you're not talking about guys who have played 38, 39, 40, 42 minutes in their guarding. So you're saying, why can't Halliburton break these guys down as easy as he was in the previous games? Well, because those guys are not playing with the heavy legs they were playing with early in the series.
That's fair, but I guess my perspective is I saw a lot of poor choices by the Pacers alongside Knicks defense. I feel like the Pacers made it easy for the Knicks in a lot of cases.
But you make poor choices when things aren't coming as easy to you. I think that's a big...
You get the matchup you want, and then you don't take the shot. You try to get cute, and you swing looking for a better shot. Pacers weren't doing that in the first 2 games. They were taking the looks that were provided to them.
But at the same time, they're swinging because the Knicks are rotating a lot faster. And they're not getting the clean looks that they were getting before. And again, I will point to, you don't have Mikal Bridges playing 46 minutes or OG Anunoby playing 40 minutes. Those guys had a lot more fresher legs, which is why I think you had a lot more scramble drill happening for the Knicks in a much better position as they were able to secure Game 3. That's Ray Jarvis. You listen to EJ Stewart. This is the Maggie and Perloff Show. Number to call in, 888-710-4ISN. Still so much to do, and I'm very curious to talk to Ray about this particularly. Very curious about this because he is a Laker fan, and I feel like there's some revisionist history happening. And if there's anybody that's going to know the history of what went down, it is Ray. So I'm very curious. Did LeBron really not want Russell Westbrook? Because that's not exactly how I remembered it, but that is how his agent is spinning it. We will test the BS meter on this after this break. This is EJ Stewart on the Maggie and Perloff Show.
Clones, listen up. Not all beef jerky is the same. In fact, there are major differences in quality from one brand to the next. Old Trapper is a better way to snack, chock full of good protein to satisfy your manliest hunger cravings. Every bite is better for you and higher in essential protein than chips, sugar-filled energy bars, and candy. Old Trapper in the Clearview bag is the world's finest jerky, made with only the best ingredients. So ask for Old Trapper by name because no other jerky compares. Old Trapper, what's your beef?
Only 29% of the Earth's surface is land, which is not a lot. So if you want to see more of the world, you have to reframe the way you travel. Embark on an expedition cruise with National Geographic Lindblad Expeditions. Learn more alongside seasoned experts sailing aboard small ships made for exploring. Don't just see the world, see it differently. National Geographic Lindblad Expeditions. Visit natgeoexpeditions.com/cruises to learn more.
At Navy Federal Credit Union, we know how fast life moves. That's why we have all-in-one banking that lets you keep on banking on. So whether you need our new lightning fast direct deposit setup for a new job, a checking account with ATM refunds and no service fees for everyday spending, or a full picture of your finances, that's all-in-one banking. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Who loves Aunt Millie's bread? Morning people who are way too happy to hear the alarm. Families trying to get everyone where they need to be on time, for once. Binge watchers and bookworms, dog lovers and cat people. Bikers and joggers who are both convinced it's their trail to share. Kids who know PB&J is almost as good as dessert. And anyone who loves the freshest bread delivered daily to Cincinnati's favorite grocers. Because no matter where the day takes you, Aunt Millie's brings you closer to home.
Fans, Baby Ruth, the official candy bar of the Cincinnati Reds, is the go-to fan favorite treat before, during, or even after the game. Taste the deliciousness of high-quality dry roasted peanuts, rich caramel, and smooth nougat. There's nothing better than enjoying your favorite game with a classic candy bar. So get your hands on your own Baby Ruth bar today at your local Speedway.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
From the Accident Recovery Team Traffic Center, don't worry about me, I called ART.
Traffic. Weather.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms this morning will be keeping things damp for the early hours of Memorial Day. A 70% chance of rain in Wichita, with temperatures starting off in the 50s, heading into the afternoon, a high of 64 degrees. And there will be a few more dry hours from midday through the early to middle afternoon, but expecting to see off and on showers and thunderstorms throughout the day, a 70% chance throughout the afternoon. And tonight, more showers will continue to move through the area, but that will start to taper off by tomorrow. Tuesday looking mostly dry, with just a 10% chance in the morning, and temperatures rising into the middle to upper 60s for the afternoon highs. With your KSN Storm Track 3 forecast, I'm meteorologist Jack Maney.
If you missed Sports Daily, you missed this.
We are glad to bring on Wyatt Thompson.
I'm going to be the very first to ask you, who do you got winning the Big 12 next year?
I'll say just based on players that everybody has that are coming back, I think BYU is going to be way good. And don't sleep on Tech. That's not what you wanted, but I'm just telling you, the top part of the league should be just terrific next year, I think.
Sports Daily, mornings on 97.5 and 1240 KFH. Swing into the jungle with Jim Rome. Afternoons from 2 until 5. Right here on Wichita's most listened to sports radio is Kansas Fan Headquarters. 97.5 and 1240 KFH. Find us live on the free Odyssey app.
A little bit of a remix, or not a remix, I guess, but there's an update to it because now we have a new summer holiday as well. But we're going to be doing a power rankings of the summer holidays because Memorial Day is a very important day here in the States, of course, honoring our veterans, honoring our service members, also honoring a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers. It's just the reality.
Hot dogs and hamburgers, the theme of today.
That's just the reality of another big part of Memorial Day is getting together with people, firing up that grill. And whether you're putting steaks on the grill, whether you're putting ribs on the grill, already getting a little hungry. I have no barbecue plans today, which is quite sad. But that's what happens when your fiance decided that she can not do 1 but 2 days at the Beyonce concert that was here in the New York area. So she was like, I'm not doing anything on Memorial Day because I will be exhausted from celebrating Beyonce. And for my fiance, my lovely fiance, Andrea, this is not Memorial Day weekend. This is Beyonce Memorial weekend. That's all that matters. So there's nothing for me today. If I want some barbecue, I'm going to have to hit up that Uber Eats or hit up Grubhub because that's the only barbecue I'm going to be getting here. Again, this is EJ Stewart filling in for Maggie and Perloff. Number to call in, 888-710-4ISN. We have so much more to get to in the show, but first let's get a sports update here. And big day in baseball, Clash of the Titans, a rematch of the NLCS. You had the Mets beating the Dodgers 3-1. Pete Alonso hits a 2-run home run, ending the worst home run drought of his career. Mets go on to be 32-21. Dodgers also 32-21. Mets take 2 out of 3 in that series. Tarik Skubal, 13 strikeouts in the win for the Tigers. They beat the Guardians 5-0. Orioles beat the Red Sox. Excuse me. Beat the Red Sox 5-1. Brewers over the Pirates 6-5. Giants, Nationals. Giants taking that one 3-2. Cubs beating the Reds in a absolute barn burner in terms of runs scored. 11-8. 13 hits for the Cubs in that win. A laugher for the Tampa Bay Rays. They beat up on the Blue Jays 13-0. Royals beat the Twins 2-1. And then you had the Astros improving to 28-25. They beat the Mariners 5-3. Texas Rangers beat Washington 5-4. That was on the road. You also had the Cardinals beating the Diamondbacks. 4-3. The Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the extremely lowly Rockies, 5-4. A little bit of an improved effort by the Rockies. They had given up 10 runs in 1 inning in the previous loss to the Yankees on Saturday. A's beat the Phillies 5-4. Phillies still remain in first place in the National League East. Marlins shut out the Angels 3-0. Padres beat the Braves 5-3. And then in the NHL, you have a 2-1 series now. The Edmonton Oilers beat the Stars in an absolute dominant performance, 6-1. They now have a 2-1 lead. Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman both score 2 goals. They combine for 4 in the blowout win. And sticking with hockey, it was a big moment for hockey, as U.S. hockey, that is. Team USA wins the ice hockey world title, win the world championships. They won 1-0 over Switzerland. It is the first world championship win for Team USA in nearly a decade. 92 years. That's the drought that Americans were in at the World Championships. 1933 was the last time that they won the U.S. World Championships. IndyCar, Alex Palou. He wins the Indy 500. He becomes the first Spanish driver to win the Indy 500. He was honored also at the Pacers playoff game. He was able to come out and enjoy some love from the crowd. Which brings me to something, and Ray, I want to call for that cut that we had on the Mets milk situation, because you see some stuff sometimes, and I'm all for fans having a good time. I'm not for fights. I keep saying that. I think that the fight stuff is getting out of control. I know this is like we had these kind of like tentpole arguments on the show. One of them is me versus Perloff, and the idea that I say fan behavior right now is as worse as it's ever been. He continues to be the I lovingly say the old man on his lawn, being like, when back in my day, the people at the vet used to, they used to drag you by your underwear.
That's not okay.
The stories that he tells to say that, hey, it's not that bad. I don't know. I feel like I go to games. The environment feels a little more, I don't know what the word is, but it just doesn't feel that friendly. I always tell folks, and I think this is not just the sports world, I think it's the world itself, in terms of how people interact with each other. There is a post-COVID shutdown world and a pre-COVID shutdown world. And I think it is very stark, the differences. And I think if you are listening, you know what I am talking about. And just
agreed.
How people interact with each other, what they say to each other. I think there is a lack of kind of like awareness, just of like how you talk to someone, how you interact, and how someone else may take your actions. So I have to say, I think that going to games sometimes has not been that fun, because I don't really love the atmosphere that's being created by the fans that are there, which is why I think you keep seeing a fight video from a game happen it feels like every day. I feel like every day I see a fight video from a stadium or from an arena. That being said, this was no fight video. This was no fisticuffs. Everybody went home, it sounds like peacefully, during the Mets-Dodgers game. The Mets, this was not the Sunday game, last night's Sunday night game. This is actually Saturday Night Baseball on MLB. And I was watching the game because, I was getting ready. One, I'm a Mets fan, but two, sorry, I said Fox, I meant. Sorry if I say ESPN. This was the MLB. This is Saturday Night Baseball on Fox. Getting ready to do local radio in New York. And this site was interesting. And the site was interesting because it was almost like a long payoff that they finally got to, because we kept seeing this particular Mets fan several times throughout the game holding what looked like probably at least a quart, maybe 2 quarts of milk. I didn't quite get it until this happened.
Masterpiece tonight on a night where they had to have it. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. We saw it in Boston earlier today. Getting ready for the Indy 500. That is not going to be easy to clean.
So, for the audience who did not see the video, but you probably can get a good sense of what happened. This gentleman who was sitting out in right center field for the Mets, typically where the 7 line would sit, if you know anything about the Mets fan base, he has a 2-quart bottle of milk and just starts pouring it over his head and pouring it into his mouth after the Mets won. Now, what was fascinating was they kept going to shots of that guy. I forgot. I think when the Mets I think Juan Soto hit the RBI double, the 2-run double in that game, and they went to him holding the milk, and there were people with phones in their hands and it looked like he was going to do something. And Joe Davis even said something along the lines of, "Oh, is he going to do something?" And then he didn't do anything. It was really weird. I was like, okay, I don't know what that was about. And then later on, after the Mets actually finally got the final out, then you have the guy pour the milk all over his face, pour over his body. And then you hear the reference to the Indy 500. That was Fox. Most likely, though we don't have confirmation, awful announcing, shout out to them who were covering this story. They feel like they were really willing to jump out the window and say that this was Fox doing a very elaborate promotion for the Indy 500, which was the next day.
It was an ad.
I'm sorry, this is just completely and utterly corny. Fan behavior is already bizarre and crazy and hard to explain already. You do not need paid actors to get off weird things happening in the audience. And it didn't make sense to me why a Mets fan would bring milk. Didn't make sense to me why they would pour it over themselves. Then he mentioned the Indy 500, and, this is where, Gee Whiz EJ comes in. I'm still not thinking it's a promotion. Didn't make sense, just being honest, as a New Yorker, why any New York Mets fan would give a rat's behind about what's going on with the Indy 500.
There's nothing milk and Met related in the Met lexicon. This was completely out of the way.
It just didn't make any sense. It made no sense. And then I didn't even hear when it happened the first time until I heard it again. Then he referenced, there would happen to be a guy at a Red Sox game that also did it. The Red Sox that played the Orioles, and someone else also poured milk and just so happened to get on camera. So this was almost certainly a ad, essentially.
The milkening?
These were milkmen, people, and I'm not talking about Robert Griffin, okay? These were milkmen that were paid by These were milkmen that were paid by Fox to pour milk all over themselves and to look like regular fans. That was my only issue. I'm all for, if you want to get your stuff off in terms of like getting the promotion for the Indy 500. It's an awesome event. I talked about it before. It's not an event I think I would want to go to, but I definitely want to go to the Indy Motor Speedway when I get a chance, because I would love to kiss the bricks and just be in that environment. It just seems like it's one of those hallowed grounds, I think, in North American sports. But to have the person put on a Mets jersey or have the other guy, putting on like Red Sox gear, and then you don't have the wherewithal to even say, hey, maybe don't wear an Indy 500 shirt underneath it. Homie's wearing an Indy 500 shirt over his Mets shirt. Like, again, like there's some crossover between Mets fans and Indy 500 fans, or like there's a crossover between Red Sox fans and Indy 500 fans, which could not be further from the truth.
It's offensive.
It just, none of it landed. It just looked weird. And and I'm done with this. I'm done with the fan promotion happening at baseball games. The baseball games are good enough. I'm one of those folks that likes baseball. I don't need the person behind the home plate with a weird smile because there's a weird horror movie coming out. I don't need somebody chugging, some idiot chugging milk in right field to remind me the Indy 500 is happening. Can I just have my baseball? I feel like I sound like Bogus sometimes. Like, Bogus loves baseball. He complains about stuff like this where he feels like we have all these things happening when it's like, can we just enjoy the actual sport? This is one of those things. Like, you just show a Mets fan doing something stupid anyway. You're going to get your shots. There's always something weird happening at Citi Field. You didn't need this. This was a complete thumbs down for me from Fox, from Major League Baseball, for making us think that a Mets fan would celebrate a Mets win by doing a nod to the Indy 500. Just wouldn't happen. Totally inauthentic. It's EJ Stewart listening to the Maggie and Perloff show on Infinity Sports Network. We got a lot to do on this show. We will have that LeBron discussion coming up. But also, we definitely got to get to this too, because Jordan Hudson made some claims against some media members. But that said, media member is standing on business. We will get an update as the Tar Heel turns coming up.
If you're like most people, you have no idea what to get Dad for Father's Day. Well, here's a gift idea you could feel really good about. Cardia Mobile 6L is the world's first FDA-cleared 6-lead personal EKG. It can detect 6 of the most common arrhythmias, including atrial fibrillation, a leading cause of stroke. Cardia Mobile is the perfect way for your dad to manage his heart health at home and between doctor's visits. It's small, easy to use, and records right to his phone. He gets 6 views of his heart. That's 6 times the data of any smartwatch at a fraction of the cost. Give your dad a gift that really matters, one that gives peace of mind for you and your dad. And now, for a limited time, Cardia is giving 10% off to all my listeners. Just go to Cardia.com. That's Kardia.com or Amazon and use code 10-6L Infinity. That's the number 10, 6L Infinity to get 10% off your Cardia Mobile 6L in time for Father's Day.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us, too, in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives. For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us too in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Fans, Baby Ruth, the official candy bar of the Cincinnati Reds, is the go-to fan favorite treat. Before, during, or even after the game. Taste the deliciousness of high-quality dry roasted peanuts, rich caramel, and smooth nougat. There's nothing better than enjoying your favorite game with a classic candy bar. So get your hands on your own Baby Ruth bar today at your local Speedway.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Nothing says summer like a rich, creamy ice cream float from Skyline. Made with 2 scoops of fresh vanilla ice cream and your choice of Barks Root Beer, Barks Red Cream Soda, or any of their Coke products. At participating Skyline locations while supplies last.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all of our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years, guaranteed, on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because of Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit the Liberty Way Verizon store at 7606 Trailside Drive today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
What's the secret to feeling your best? Strong, rested, and clear. At an Elements Massage Studio, it's personalized, therapeutic massage care. Our skilled massage therapists craft every session to fit your needs, helping you reset, recharge, and relieve stress. Your reset? Your element. Your best night's sleep? Your element. And now, enhance your experience with purifying, relaxing facials that take self-care to the next level. Book today at elementsmassage.com and feel perfectly in your element.
From the Accident Recovery Team Traffic Center, don't worry about me, I called ART.
Traffic. Weather.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms this morning will be keeping things damp for the early hours of Memorial Day. A 70% chance of rain in Wichita, with temperatures starting off in the 50s, heading into the afternoon, a high of 64 degrees. And there will be a few more dry hours from midday through the early to middle afternoon, but expecting to see off and on showers and thunderstorms throughout the day, a 70% chance throughout the afternoon. And tonight, more showers will continue to move through the area, but that will start to taper off by tomorrow. Tuesday looking mostly dry, with just a 10% chance in the morning, and temperatures rising into the middle to upper 60s for the afternoon highs. With your KSN Storm Track 3 forecast, I'm meteorologist Jack Maney.
1, 2, 3, 4. Wichita's official radio voice of the NFL. This is 97.5 and 1240 KFH. Sports Radio, KFH.
To the Maggie and Perloff show on Infinity Sports Network. EJ, executive producer here, filling in for Maggie and Perloff. A lot going on in the sports world, but we got to take a stop in Chapel Hill.
He's calling the plays, but she's calling the shots. It's time for As the Tar Heel Turns.
Newish segment on the Maggie and Perloff show where we update what's going on with Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson in Chapel Hill. And right now, really not much so on the Jordan Hudson side, but I do think an important lesson to be learned for Jordan Hudson. This actually is dating back to a lot of the issues that have been created for the Belichicks as of late. The first coming from that interview they did on CBS Sunday morning where Jordan Hudson was interrupting and wouldn't let Bill answer questions about where they met, and it was all bizarre. And out of that came a podcast by Pablo Torre on Pablo Torre Finds Out, where he laid out some very interesting details about what's going on, what's really potentially going on in North Carolina. That included a ban, that included people saying that Jordan Hudson was the worst person they've ever had to deal with. All things that would get anyone upset. And Jordan Hudson had taken to Instagram to basically say that all this was false. But when you're 24 years old, sometimes you put a little stank on it. Sometimes you put a little much on it. You're always trying to get the biggest and brightest, attention on your comments. And here she went on Instagram and said the findings were have been nothing short of factually inaccurate, slanderous, defamatory, and targeted. Can y'all please stop giving credit to this quote-unquote reporter? Well, the problem with Jordan Hudson is words like slanderous come with legal things. It suggests that Pablo Torre committed a crime, but Pablo Torre responded back on Twitter after she deleted that post, maybe not realizing that she may be wading into waters that she does not want, said, I find it bizarrely appropriate at this point that Jordan Hudson would post this and then very quickly delete it. But to be perfectly clear, I stand by our reporting and the episodes will be published. So Pablo Torre versus Bill Belichick, I don't think it's going anywhere.
The basketball playoffs are here on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on all the action. Whether it's points, rebounds, or assists, don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff glory. The app is so simple to use. Just pick 2 or more players across any sport, pick more or less on their projection, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Prize Picks offers Venmo, MasterCard, Apple Pay, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So join Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, available to play in more than 40 plus states now, including California and Texas. Download the Prize Picks app today, use the code ROAM, and get $50 in bonus promo funds instantly when you play $5. Code ROAM on Prize Picks to get $50 in bonus promo funds instantly when you play $5. Win or lose, you get the $50 bonus credit just for playing. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. You do have to be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Fans, Baby Ruth, the official candy bar of the Cincinnati Reds, is the go-to fan favorite treat before, during, or even after the game. Taste the deliciousness of high-quality dry roasted peanuts, rich caramel, and smooth nougat. There's nothing better than enjoying your favorite game with a classic candy bar. So get your hands on your own Baby Ruth bar today at your local Kroger.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Who loves Aunt Millie's bread? Morning people who are way too happy to hear the alarm. Families trying to get everyone where they need to be on time, for once. Binge watchers and bookworms, dog lovers and cat people. Bikers and joggers who are both convinced it's their trail to share. Kids who know PB&J is almost as good as dessert. And anyone who loves the freshest bread delivered daily to Cincinnati's favorite grocers. Because no matter where the day takes you, Aunt Millie's brings you closer to home.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all of our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years, guaranteed, on my plan and my home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because of Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit the Liberty Way Verizon store at 7606 Trailside Drive today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
20% off sunglasses from Shaden Precision Eyewear. Hurry over to SeeBetterPlayBetter.com and use promo code SPRING. See better and play better with Shaden. That's SeeBetterPlayBetter.com. Promo code SPRING.
Life insurance may seem complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Especially when you have a good neighbor at State Farm who can answer your questions and help make it easier to understand. With over 19,000 agents across the nation, it's easier than ever to find a local State Farm agent who can help you understand your options and choose the right life insurance coverage to protect your loved ones. Contact your local State Farm agent or visit statefarm.com to get started today.
From the Accident Recovery Team Traffic Center, don't worry about me, I called ART.
Traffic. Weather.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms this morning will be keeping things damp for the early hours of Memorial Day. A 70% chance of rain in Wichita, with temperatures starting off in the 50s, heading into the afternoon, a high of 64 degrees. And there will be a few more dry hours from midday through the early to middle afternoon, but expecting to see off and on showers and thunderstorms throughout the day, a 70% chance throughout the afternoon. And tonight, more showers will continue to move through the area, but that will start to taper off by tomorrow. Tuesday looking mostly dry with just a 10% chance in the morning, and temperatures rising into the middle to upper 60s for the afternoon highs. With your KSN Storm Track 3 forecast, I'm meteorologist Jack Maney.
Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH Wichita, KNSS HD2 Clearwater, and Odyssey Sports Station.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
We have a series. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You're listening to the Maggie and Perloff show on the Infinity Sports Network. No Maggie, no Perloff. EJ filling in, executive producer here of this show. Ray Jarvis behind the glass doing a phenomenal job as he always does. Number to call in, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4ISN. I really think that, when I watch the playoffs, it's like, to me, watching a story unfold. It's like reading a comic book. It's like reading a chapter book or watching a movie. There's different ebbs and flows. There's different things that happen that are unexpected that you can't predict, which is why I was a little surprised at just how much people were willing to write off the New York Knicks. Even to some degree, how much people were willing to write off the Timberwolves going back home, just because in the NBA, unless you're talking about the 83, the 83 Sixers, 86 Celtics, 87 Lakers. You're talking about the 2001 Lakers, the 96 Bulls, the 2017 Warriors. If you're talking about those teams don't have a lot of adversity they face. Those teams were able to run roughshod through the NBA playoffs on their way to NBA titles because their teams were so much better. It's just different for most other teams. So when it came, especially when talking about the Indiana Pacers playing against the New York Knicks, Indiana Pacers are a very good team. They've had a very good season. They've been one of the hottest teams in the NBA, especially in the second half of the season. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA since the second half of the season. So them getting here wasn't that much a surprise. Maybe them getting up 2-0 in the Knicks was a little bit of a surprise. But once that happened, everyone was basically willing to say, well, this series is over. Like, Pacers seem to be going to the NBA Finals. And that seemed to me as if folks hadn't been paying attention to the Knicks during this postseason. Because what we've seen from the Knicks is while they have never trailed in a series during the postseason, they have had big moments where they've had to play from behind in games. Being in uncomfortable situations is not an uncomfortable situation for the Knicks. In fact, it feels as if they seem to play their best and thrive the most in uncomfortable situations. Now, albeit, this got about as uncomfortable as you could want in a game where you have a must-win. You're staring down the barrel of a potential 3-0 hole. Your starting point guard picking up 4 fouls in the fourth quarter when he's Mr. Clutch, not ideal. Karl-Anthony Towns having 3 fouls in the first half and being completely inept, not ideal. Your backup point guard, Deuce McBride, picking up 3 fouls in 1 minute,